back. You're listening to At Your Service here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media. I'm your friend, Vernon, and coming up right now is Traveling the World.
It's so long I have been a traveling man. Oh, it's been a long, long time.
And this morning my guest is Robert Richards, a former president of the Jamaica Badminton Association. He's also former president of the Caribbean Regional Badminton Federation. Good morning, my friend. How are you this morning, Robert Richards?
Good morning, Vernon. Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
This is the man who has been all over, been involved in sports, and boy, just discovered that there's lots of connections between both of us. Good to have you.
All right, good to be here. How are you keeping?
Well, keeping fine so far, and I'm in good company. I hear you're doing pretty well. A man who's been involved with sports, I figure that you've been keeping pretty fit, but don't think because you're in sports you must take chance with COVID. You know, COVID-19 is a dangerous lady, you know.
No, well, I'm providing essential services through my father had through LAN Integrators at IT. I'm trying to be as safe as possible and keep with the protocols, but, you know, have to keep the wheels turning.
Right. Now, tell me about Robert. Where's Robert coming from? I hope he's a countryman, you know.
Well, no,
I hope so.
I have been in the country. I don't know if I'm a countryman. I love the country. I actually grew up was born in Kingston at St. Joseph's Hospital, and moved from there. Stayed in Kingston until I was about 5 years old. And my father was a bank manager with the Bank of Nova Scotia, so he had a lot of island posts. So our first stint was in Linstead, and we were there for a couple of years. Then we moved from Linstead to Christiana, where boy, I had some real good times growing up in Christiana.
Well, if you're talking about Christiana, that means you're coming close to me then.
Yep. How long were you? You're born on that side, or are you?
Yeah, man, from Trelawney and Knox. I went to Knox, so, you know, you're coming close to me, man.
No, Knox. Well, Knox was a big stomping ground of mine, man. My mother actually worked there with Mr. George Scott and Barbara Jones. I know the Jones boys and that entire family and crew from that side from many years. Still stay in touch.
Okay, so you were in my ear all those years. Interesting. Sacred Heart Church there?
I went to Sacred Heart Academy.
What a thing. Interesting. And I used to play the organ at Sacred Heart. So I don't know, I must have crossed paths during that time. I don't know, just such a long time ago. Now, where next to? After you went, which high school you went to?
I left there and I went to at that time we didn't have GSAT and PEP and all these things that they have now. So we had
all these fancy
those
things.
days we had common entrance. So I took common entrance, and from my results in common entrance, I got the chance to take Campion's private exam at that time. About 200 of us took it, and about 90 people were able to get through at that time. It was only 3 forms at the school at the time. So, and about 90 of us got in. I was the last set of all boys who went to Campion. So
okay.
I known as the last of the Mohicans.
And you went straight to work after, or you went further?
No, after that, did work at, went to school at CAST at the time, no, UTech.
So we must have crossed paths then, at CAST.
Yeah,
you probably, you're a young boy for me, man. You're a young boy, man. We wouldn't have. And after that, started working?
So from there, after I did my stint with the first part of IT at that time, in which we used to use punch cards and do RPG and COBOL programming, which no one of today would have a clue about. I came out to the working world to start working my first company at Computer Business Systems with a gentleman known as Mr. Gasking. Also was involved in sport with me in badminton.
Yeah.
I had to go back overseas and get updated with all the latest things in IT, because none of that existed anymore. We went to personal computers. We were one of the first people to bring down the IBM PC, even before IBM, to Jamaica. And there started my IT line of things.
Yes.
Path kind of changed because I actually first wanted to become a pilot and started doing training down at Tinson Pen with Mr. Barnett at the time, if I remember. He was in Beverly Hills also, and he had a pilot school at Tinson Pen. Did my book side and the ground school side of it, but when it came now to go and start doing flying, my mother had an objection to that, and I had to take a turn, so I ended up in IT.
Now, tell me about badminton. You're also involved in badminton, and that seems to have taken you across the world.
So let me give you a little background on badminton now. So badminton dates back to actually Christiana. My father was an avid badminton player in his day as a bank manager, and the old Bata shoe factory in Christiana, I don't know if you knew about that.
I'm a big fan for you, so I would.
Was abandoned.
Yeah, yes.
And Jamaica had a person on there, Mr. Wang, who was actually from Malaysia. And he was actually on the Malaysian Thomas Cup badminton team way back in the 60s and ended up in Christiana. And he introduced a number of the banks in Christiana to badminton. My father, at that time, Barclays Bank and BNS were not far from each other across the road, down in the town of Christiana. And badminton, I got introduced it down there. At the house I used to live on had an outdoor badminton court, which was Batchen's old house, right in front of the Kirby's place by the Guava Pond. Now, I'm telling you things that only you may know about on this.
Oh, yes, I am quite aware of the Kirby's there, of course. And they listen to this program,
too. That was right around by the roundabout near Bury. Would go to Homewood.
Yeah, man, by Sedbury, yeah, man.
Left turn and go to Christiana.
All right, yes.
So my house was right in front of there. And up there was a badminton court. Mm-hmm. That is where my father taught me badminton, the what we call the fundamentals of the sport, at about 8 years old.
What do you think about badminton nowadays? It's not all those popular sports, and you have done pretty well. You've traveled the world, and we're going to get into that when we come back after the break. But what do you think? You think the sports is given the sort of attention? You know, football gets it, track and so on. In a minute or so, tell us what you think needs to be done about that sport. Badminton.
Badminton, a lot of sports in Jamaica, if you notice, a lot of times are driven by personalities. You know, if you notice when there's a strong personality in a sport, some of the sports gets a lot of recognition, goes up, and you know, when a certain personality leaves, somehow, even if you look at football, yes, football is attention, but you saw when there's a strong personality like Horace Burr that was there, you saw how the sport was being driven. You saw the same thing in netball when Molly and Marva and those people
but let me tell you, Molly's also on Knoxite.
Were in the sport. So depends on the personalities who are in a number of the sports, who drive the sport and get the sport to really move. Badminton was not a mainstream sport, but I must tell you, back when I played in my first stint as president, and even before that, I became president when I used to just be a player and a council member, because I served in the sport as a young person, apart from a player. It was quite popular. I mean, I have books, and we got coverage, quite a bit of coverage. Sponsorship wasn't a big issue. Sponsorship wasn't a big issue when I was there. But as things evolved, certain people had different directions that they took the sport. The sport kind of faded in its popularity. Over the years, different things have happened to it, the economy and so on. We lost in the 80s, our Chinese population in the late 70s and early 80s migrated due to the issues that Jamaica were having at the time, political issues. And I know the Chinese and the Syrians were the big drivers of the sport at that time in Jamaica, before I had come in and kind of carried a lot of it into the inner city and my inner city program, and brought a lot of that down into those areas. To spread the foot, so it became from, instead of being an elitist sport, we had national players now coming from Haile Selassie, coming from Rosetown, coming from these places. We had national players coming there. But we need some attention. Publicity is definitely needed.
We have another probably 30 seconds. Just tell us very concisely, in your opinion, what do you think needs to be done? Do you think it's a sport that persons from all sectors of the society can enjoy, especially young? What do you think needs to be done, probably by those in government, the private sector, to get more mass support? What do you think?
Well, the first thing we need a proper home. So in quick 30 seconds, we need a proper home. We need a good base that we can call our home, which have courts where all our training and events can take place from. We still don't have that. The venue that we had, which was our main thing, was still a private place, Constant Spring Golf Club, and we have now lost that, which has been a kind of real sad thing. But I'd say the biggest thing, we need to get a home. With a home, our marketing and everything can spin from around that to develop the sport, because it is definitely one that can be played from young to old, and, definitely one that you can move from. There are scholarships for badminton, and a lot of people don't know that. I think that can happen both locally and overseas. So there's opportunity for us. So I'll go further into that as you take your break.
All right, you're going to go for the break right now. You're listening to At Your Service here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media, the People's Program, the People's University. It's traveling the world, and my very special guest is Robert Richards, and former president of the Jamaica Badminton Association. I'm your friend Vernon Darby saying to you, soon come back. Don't move. Welcome back. You're listening to At Your Service here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media. It's traveling the world. I'm your friend Vernon Darby, and my guest this morning is Robert Richards. Yes, Robert. Now you're going to take us on a tour across the world. I know you've probably been to every corner of the world, but we want you to probably take us to about 1 or 2 countries and then look at a few others. Tell us what sporting is like in those countries, or the food is like, and just anything. Just share with us. Where you want to start first in terms of country that you have been to?
I've been to a number of them due to both sport and work. I probably want to touch on Berlin. Been there a number of times just after the Berlin Wall came down. And then again, when I went back to see Usain in 2009, the World Championships. So those are 2 times I'd like to speak about on the program. And probably again in Beijing. I went there too at different times when both cities changed dramatically. First visit to Berlin was kind of an unusual one. In 1992, I'd come off of major injury, in which I was paralyzed for about 9 months. I'm in bed. And
for my listeners, so all of us, just remind us that Berlin is the capital of Germany, right?
Germany, yeah, man. And
right.
And it was on the eastern side now. It was the dark side of Germany at the time when we went there. And after I got better and started to learn to walk again, I said, listen, I'm going to Europe. It's something that as a youngster, we were supposed to do with our family and never got around to it. And I said, I'm going. And I took off on a 13-city trip to meet an old school mate of mine who, her parents were ambassadors in Europe. Met her up there in Prague and then went to Berlin. It was just after the wall came down, and we landed. I landed after taking, I think, a 9-hour trip on a train and came into Berlin.
Remind us about that wall, because some persons who, when they hear talk about that wall, the only wall I've heard about is that wall which is supposed to be built in
the USA with Mexico.
Why are you getting me into trouble?
Well, Berlin was separate. East and West Germany was separate.
Right.
After World War II. And
of course, one side was communist, right?
It would split Germany into East and West Germany.
Yes.
So for many years, just like what you have North and South Korea now, you had the what we call the western side of Germany and the eastern side of Germany. Mm-hmm. So one was a more affluent part where people had their freedoms and their go about our normal, what we call the democratic way of life. On the other side now, didn't. It was ruled by law, and you really didn't have freedoms.
Yes, it was a communist country.
In East Germany. So life there was a lot different. Then along in, I think it was late 80s or 1990, when Ronald Reagan negotiated with, I think, Gorbachev to negotiate to have Germany be unified. And it was, of course, we know the talks that took place then, and then the wall was taken down. So Germany would now become a unified nation.
And of course, before that, those who were brave enough to try to get across that wall, many, I understand, lost their lives.
Many died. There was a gap of about, let me see, it was about 150 feet that separated. It did what is known in Korea as DMZ, the demilitarization zone.
Right.
They had a section there which was barbed wired, mined, and monitored by machine gun fire towers. So any person who was trying to escape from the eastern side, some did get through, were killed in that area.
It just tells you what persons will do just for freedom.
Those who did get past and so on, known as Checkpoint Charlie, which still actually exists there. It is on our tourist spot, which that was the part that you could go to legally get through from West Germany to East Germany, or vice versa if you were ever so lucky. Mm-hmm. So diplomats, I guess, dignitaries and other countries would pass through there, but any ordinary citizen would not be allowed across. And if you did try, well, you know what the outcome would be.
And of course, many of us will know that Germany has had a rough history. What about the Jews? When there's a feeling that you should cleanse that society there, and attempting to wipe out all the Jews.
That was known as the Holocaust.
The Holocaust.
And, I actually visited one of those areas there in Dresden, where I visited.
Really?
When I visited the gas chambers, where...
No, tell me about that. Gas chamber? What do you mean gas chamber? Tell me about that.
No, man, this is really horrifying. Even speaking to you now, I get goosebumps seeing this thing. So, Jews were used as experiments. As you know, they wanted to create the Aryan race. A race that was strong, wasn't weak, wasn't feeble. Jews were considered all of those, and they wanted to get rid of them. So what they would do is use the Jews for a lot of medical experiments, with their organs, transplanting, and so. And areas when they were wanted to be discarded, they would be taken to these gas chambers, and they should be gassed and burnt. The place up to when I went there.
Hold on, you mean the people were gassed and burned?
These are. I can't remember the numbers at the time, but I think it went. Hundreds of thousands were killed and burnt. Mass graves. And Dresden was one of the big concentration camps at the time, in which a lot of experiments took place. And it was really chilling. It was horrifying to see what people went through. We have gone through different parts and things in life. There was, way back in the days of the Romans, what took place in their things. Then it came later online with slavery and the triangular trade.
Yes.
And then more currently between 1941 and 45, we had this Holocaust, in which Hitler and the Jews did this. And to see history that I could see in our century back at that time, it was horrifying, chilling. But, something we need to learn from and be careful where our world is heading now to.
But so persons can understand it. I just checked something. You're talking about 6 million persons, That's a lot, That's three times the population of Jamaica.
Yeah, that's twice
over 3 times
population more. If we take our diaspora, it's right. So it was very chilling.
Yeah.
So seeing that kind of stuff over there, it kind of as an eye opener to what sometimes we complain a lot in Jamaica about. Our government not doing this and so on. But we have a lot of freedoms over here that a lot of people, even currently in certain countries that I've been to. Recently, like in Doha in the Middle East and so. Certain people, the freedoms we have in Jamaica, they don't have at all. So sometimes we should be thankful for what we have here with our democracy and how things are. We know it's not the best, but, we are ahead of the game with a lot of places that I've been to.
But that gas chamber, so really, tell me, when you go inside that place, what it looks like? I wonder what they used to do, what it looks like when you go inside that place.
It's real eerie. And when you get going there, the place is actually kind of chilly. And there are a lot of, you know what a brick oven looks like? Think about a brick oven now.
Yeah, man, the Jamaica used to have a brick oven in the 60s.
And, a lot of them now would have the heavy, very high temperature burning at below. And you'd have stacks up to 6 levels of these ovens going across 40. So 6 times 4, that's about 240 chambers that you'd have bodies being burnt. And this would be just going through on a daily basis per hour. Burnt, incinerated, that's it. Not to be found, you're gone, that's it. And, you talk, you see, and they go through the videos of the experiments that they used to do. The woman transplanting, moving the kidney from one side of the body, you would put in the liver at that spot and see how it would work. Really horrific things that humans used to have to go through. And sometimes we have to wonder, us as human beings, how do we really do these things to each other? It's shocking. But back to, I don't know how much more you want to go in that, back to Berlin, where we were discussing before, when I landed the night and came into a Berlin station, which at that time, it takes a while to build back a city after being depressed for, that was what, nearly 50 years? No, lie. That's 40 to about 20 odd years. And when we came to the train station, it is filled with vagrants and beggars.
Oh.
I landed there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I tell you, I was scared when I came out and saw what I was coming into. My hotel was in a location called Alexanderplatz. That was the center of attention in Berlin. That's where they used to have now the big functions in these squares. If Hitler was to come out and speak, he'd speak in the square. If the government even at that time was to come out and speak, it would be in the square. My hotel was close by there. And to get from the train station to the hotel. When you looked outside, the vehicles that were out there looked like all vehicles ready to take you off into no man's land. Now, that was one of the most frightening and scary experiences I've had landing in a city, but not knowing how to get to a place and just seeing what was around me. Because it was the first time I thought, boy, this is a time where I may just not make this through here, or people may have to come to look for me. The long and short of it at that night, two vagrants tried to approach me, or people there to try and rob me out there, so before.
But I gather things have changed significantly. Still have a bit of repression, and you still hear some crude stories about...
Germany has changed Jews. I'm going to move it from then now, when I went back again now with Usain in 2009.
We went to now?
We'll take that up.
Okay, where you went to? Which country?
Back to Berlin.
Oh, back to Berlin. Okay.
Changes.
That's it. That would be very interesting.
Those are the days now when it's just started to, get back into the Western world. I'm going to tell you now, when it's given time to grow now, when I went back there now, the drastic changes that I saw in that nation.
Right. No need to jump the wall again. I guess the wall is still there. So go and take pictures of the wall. It's just amazing. What a very interesting story. And for those who know the history, yes, of what happened in Germany, many of us, we just passing information, but it's still a really fascinating history. Can you imagine over 6 million persons lost their lives because they were gassed, murdered, they were burnt? And many were lucky to escape. And good thing after World War, some of them were able to go to other countries. And the Jews, they have done very well, especially in countries like America. It is amazing when we see what the peoples of other countries where they are coming from. We're going to go for the break. I'm Vernon Darby, and when we come back, we will continue to have this conversation with our guest, Robert Richards, former president of the Jamaica Badminton Association. Vernon Darby saying to you, soon come back. Don't move. Welcome back. You're listening to At Your Service here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media. The People's Program, the People's University. I'm your friend, Vernon Darby, and my guest is Robert Richards. Robert, you've been to Germany, and specifically Berlin, the capital of Germany. What a history. So
again, in the first visit, there was not a lot of development over there. You saw still a lot of poverty. Buildings you really didn't have any skyscrapers, no skyline. That wasn't there. So now, take a leapfrog now. Our superstar athlete now starts to take off in his career. And after dominating the Beijing Olympics in 2008, we head to the city of Berlin again in 2009. Where it's being held. We're going to carry back in a little history now here again. At the Berlin Stadium, IAAF World Championships 2009. Now, if you think back again now, an Olympics was actually held here in which another great athlete, black athlete, Jesse Owens, won there. Now, to just give people for me, I'm a sportsman. So again, that stadium when I went there to see Usain was nostalgia. Jesse Owens, when he was there, for the Olympics and won, beating the Germans, beating all the so-called white Aryan race. And Hitler would not stand for Jesse Owens in that stadium. That stadium is now was refurbished and was there for 2009. And to be there as an individual, seeing another black man, another superstar athlete, and Jamaican on top of it, in the stadium where all of this history took place before, was really nostalgic. I mean, again, goosebumps. I mean, I remember every time coming to the stadium and just imagining that seeing that black and white race when it was shown and we watched the videos of it, of Jesse Owens winning, and coming there to travel with Usain. And when Usain won the 100-meter, breaking the world record again on the second night of the World Championships, I could literally feel and kind of see Hitler turning in his grave. So it was really a nostalgic moment for those who follow sports and even history. That was apart from Usain winning for Jamaica. There was a lot of history in that race that night. It was in that stadium again, being won by a black man again, and him being Jamaican made it even more special for me. So, I mean, a lot of people saw that race and probably said, oh, yes, Jamaica win and Usain Bolt and stuff, but a lot of people don't know what the background, what that stadium represented before, what took place in that stadium before.
Yes.
Pan Olympics. So it was really an important feat, something to go down in history apart from the world record and Usain winning. So that was that there. Berlin now had really no changed as a city. Developed skyscrapers were there. The same place, Alexanderplatz, which I went to before now. A huge shopping mall was there. Now, I remembered I went and visited a section there, which I was ran down one time in my previous visit by white German supremacists on my first visit, in which I was taking pictures and took some pictures of them, and I was chased. I had to run to a security point because you were not allowed, or they were not allowed, tourists were not allowed and supposed to take pictures of them. So I went back with my friends to that point to show them where I had to escape again for my life in Berlin in the games there. You know, it shows how the development of a country, and I compared it a lot to Jamaica for that period of time. How far back when I first visited Berlin, I thought Berlin was behind Jamaica. And when I went back again in 2009, I had to comment and say, boy, how they have now surpassed us.
I wonder how they did that. I mean, they had a horrible past. They were behind us. That's like many other countries like Singapore. That's interesting.
Again, a lot of it has to do with economies of scale. The European community that's there, it's a larger community to get into. Germany, West Germany, of course, is a developed state, and they pretty much took over the management and saw the place. So, you know, it is kind of there to understand how it was done. What I'm disappointed is that we seem to have lacked what it took in our leaders throughout the years with vision and so on to get us to the point where we really should have been. You know, it is sad when I visit a number of places before and after. Singapore is another example, moving back from the 60s to now, that I see how, boy, with a different vision and type of leadership, and if we were not so separated with green and orange, that we thought more as a nation, more times, where we could have been. Because we're only 3 million people, you know. Change shouldn't really take that long for us to develop and happen here.
Yes.
But our tribalism has held us back. Our mental thinking and not thinking big enough has held us back. And, you know, I'm hoping that after COVID, it will open our eyes that, you know, we need to, our steps that we have been taking have been too small. We need to now start to make bigger steps. And where we should be as a nation that's only 120 minutes from the largest consuming nation in the world, the United States, North America. Jamaica should really be in a way better place than we are now. So, you know, they say in life, let us not worry about, let us learn from our past. The future is in front of us. Let us make the steps now to make it happen. So, back into Berlin, had a great time there with Bolt. We were picked up, my best friend and I, David Sangster, who happens to be Dr. Alfred Sangster, who when I was at UTEC, he was the principal.
Only one of his kind, Dr. Alfred Sangster. You will not find another like him.
For sure. And his son happens to be my best friend, like a brother.
Which one is that?
His son.
Which one?
David. So he and I...
Oh, David, yes, my good friend too. Good morning, David.
He takes a lot of these trips to me together. He's a big VP now in one of the large IT or technology firms in the United States now, Nutanix.
Yeah.
And when we were in Germany, the TVs used to pick us up a lot on the screen. For some reason, I don't know. And then we became kind of like a little, those are the Jamaican guys. And one media house picked us up and wanted to do a full live TV showing in the life of the Jamaican track and field fan for a day. So they came, television coverage from, we got up in the morning, at breakfast, throughout the day, and this is going live, you know. So we're being streamed live as these live, you know, these new live shows that they have around on TV and all of these different things, you know. And we were done live for an entire day in Berlin. What that did now is caused another state of, things. Each place we went now, people picked us up. So it was a stopping now and taking pictures and autographs, and we became like a huge sensation over there. So it was a hell of a time. I remember one night after leaving the discotheque, this was before the 200-meter finals now. A lot of people don't know this, and you say retired now, so I can bust out some secrets.
Yes.
You say that a bunch of us went to the discotheque. Now, this is the night before the 200 finals, and we went out the night, had a good time at one of the discos in there. You see, and went home. He had entourage and people to get him back to the village. But my friend and I decided to walk some of the streets in the night catch some food before we headed back to our hotel. And then walking, and we got to McDonald's at about 4:15 in the morning again, another late morning. Hungry now because we want to go and eat and get home. And we are rushed, we are bum rushed. People said, see the two Jamaican guys here? And it took us about 45 minutes for us to get through talking, taking pictures, signing flags, and so before we got through the order. And get our food from McDonald's to get home. So it was a fabulous trip from the point of view of our team doing very well, because both our men and the women were well at that thing. I think that event we came back with 13 medals, and also was good for us in the whole camaraderie and us learning about the Berlin people, from meeting people where we went to different restaurants. We learned about how sauerkraut started to be made with the cabbage, and where the Frankfurter really came from, and they give us a lot of things. Now, I'm not a beer drinker, and I'm not even an alcohol drinker, but we were certainly introduced to taste a lot of beers and German beers because of the camaraderie that we had when we met over there.
Right.
So each.
But before you go for the break, though, just in 1 second, tell me about Usain. What's the impression of him? What we don't know, because there's all kind of perception about these personalities. But tell me, what's your impression of him? You have worked with him one-on-one.
Well,
in one sentence.
Let me tell you, Usain, because I have followed superstar athletes for many years. I mean, Tiger Woods, a number of them, Ali, Jordan. I've been to all of these games and stuff. But let me tell you, Usain, genuine. Usain, I'm going to give it to a Japanese. I'm going to give a little story. A Japanese press person did when I spoke to him. He said, "You guys, let me tell you why we like Usain." And he was comparing him to Tiger Woods. In Atlanta, when you go for the Masters golf tournament, when they said the reporters are to go out and see Tiger Woods, the boss has to say to them, "You guys get on the bus to go to the reporter to see Tiger Woods." In Berlin, Usain had 3 tents. Now, each tent is supposed to have one athlete doing a press conference after their thing. Usain has 3 tents filled with 3 tents fully loaded with reporters and interview people that he has to walk from one to the other to do his interviews. The Japanese guy said, "Listen, when Usain comes, we want to go and see Usain.
Yes.
When Tiger Woods comes, they have to tell us to go and see him."
What a thing.
Two different characters. Genuine, makes you feel comfortable, answers your questions. I have never been at a time where I've been at a point, and when this is in superstardom, where Usain has not seen me about me and he's not come and said, "Why, hello, how's everything? What's going on?"
And I must tell you, and sure for it's a Chilani man, they can't leave that out,
Oh, yeah, man, it's a Chilani man. I keep on saying I need to put a big statue right in front of the school here at William Nib on the highway passing.
And by the way, since you mentioned William Nib,
that's home I bolt. I don't understand why I haven't done it yet.
Since you mentioned that William Nib, both my sisters, they taught there, so they taught him at Fulvia and Ingrid, they taught him at William Nib. So they are proud of that. All right, we're going to go for the break. Robert, boy, what a conversation. You need a part 2 and a part 3, man. All right, we're going to go for the break right now on the following. You're listening to At Your Service here on Nationwide NFM, a revolution in media. Well, actually, Robert, we'll have another 2 minutes or so with you. And just give us any general information. You haven't told us about the food in Germany, and you have told us if you ate some strange things in Germany, or tell us about the unusual things.
I touched a little bit on the sauerkraut and so on a while ago, but I'm going to be frank with you. I am not a great experiment of food. I stick to the things that I know. While I go a touch off the beaten track, I don't really go and eat a lot of what I don't know. So like trips to Germany, where I saw some of the most outrageous food when I went to Beijing, which we probably can leave for another time. I didn't try it, but I certainly went around places where I ate with people who I saw their different types of food that they eat, different parts of the animals that they have as delicacies. I did have I'm not a Frankfurter lover, but I did have what is called a true Jamaican German Frankfurter with sauerkraut and different things that they had with it, and did have a sip of their beer.
Tell us about that sauerkraut. Tell us about that. What is it?
Sauerkraut is how can I put it now? It's like cabbage that is done in a brine.
Oh, yes.
So think of now a fermented cabbage in a certain brine, and it's put on top of hot dogs over there. And matter of fact, it's taken off a lot in the U.S. too, because when you go to the U.S., when you go to the New York, which is a melting pot of a lot of nations in the U.S. You get a lot of hot dogs with your sauerkraut. But Germany is, apart from their food, they're known for their beers. I mean, they have a thing there called
yes.
Oktoberfest, and it is
That's quite
massive.
popular. That must they probably postponed that this year, right? I'm sure they have.
October, no man, I think they're going to have it. They'll come with special masks with straws.
Oktoberfest, also a big thing here in Jamaica. My brother, I want to thank you very much, but I'm sure you want to probably leave with a parting word. But your story could go on and on and on. You see, sometimes I just listen.
Well, when I do release my memoirs, you'll get some of the fun ones.
And you plan to do that? And well, by the way, tell us quickly about your company. Yes, LAN Integrators, right? That's very quickly.
LAN Integrators started in 1993. We're a full IT solution provider. One of the essential services that we have around here now for this.
Yes.
27 years providing things from the general things. We're an HP, Dell, Microsoft Enterprise partner, to name a few. And we provide from infrastructure, from cabling to UPS work, IT security, project management, conference room setting up, camera installations. So we have a large gamut. Our motto is providing solutions and service that lasts for our customers. So
especially at this time where we're talking about working from home. I know that your company will be very crucial at this time. So thank you very much, my brother. It was nice to link up. Nice to know that you're in touch with quite a few persons that I'm very close to, especially at Knox.
We need to link up, man, because they had I think it was last year, they had a Knox reunion.
Yes, I know.
So,
all the best, my friend. You have a wonderful day. And you make sure you get that publication out.
Be safe,
all right? Take care. All the best, my brother. There you have it for Robert Richards, owner of LAN Integrators, a former president of the Jamaica Badminton Association.
Oh, it's been a long, long time.